Awesome. All right. My name is Dr. Daniel Murray. I'm a chiropractor in San Antonio, Texas, owner and operator of Murray Chiropractic Center. Um, I got into chiropractic because I was really sick. I was an elementary special education teacher for 9 years. I started to develop an autoimmune condition, was bleeding out of places that no man should bleed from, and went down the medical route. That's all I knew. They almost killed me. It was getting worse, 90 days of just hell. And so I had a friend who was already a chiropractor, and he just told me, man, you need to clean up your diet. You need to start getting adjusted 2 or 3 times a week. And so I went 51% raw vegan, and I started getting adjusted. It's funny. I went to the local chiropractor, and I said, man, I want to get adjusted 3 times a week. And he said, why? What's hurting? And I said, nothing, man. I have an autoimmune condition. I want you to stimulate my immune system. He's like, what? He was like, he still is. He practices right down the street from me, actually, here in San Antonio. He's like, what? No, your neck doesn't hurt? Your back doesn't hurt? And I'm like, no, man, I need my immune system stimulated. And he's like, well, it's $33. I don't care what you're here for. Face down, son. And so even though he was not philosophically based or any of that, he still got me better. Within 2 weeks, the infection broke. I haven't had symptoms of that autoimmune condition, and that was back in 2011. So we're coming up on my year anniversary of chiropractic and nutrition coming together to heal me completely. And so at that point, man, I was hooked. I was like, what is this thing called chiropractic? My buddy was feeding me articles and books and sending me, materials. I read Life Without Fear by Fred Barge before I even, thought about going to chiropractic school. And that was it, man. Decided to make the change. Here I am almost 10 years later.
Awesome.
Yes, sir. So as Dr. Tim Young would say, let's get right into the middle of it.
Let's do it.
The title of the talk is You're the Problem. You are the problem. And I'm going to be speaking to myself more than anybody tonight because I've recognized that. And that's one of the central tenets and themes in my life is that any situation that I'm in, I've created myself. And any situation that I want to improve, it's going to be up to me to make the change that's necessary to improve. So a lot of people look at and say, oh, there's so many variables. There's so many variables. There's only one variable in every situation that you can control, and that's yourself. So I always try to focus on that one variable. And of course, adaptability is huge in our profession. It should be huge in our personal improvement as well. So I've got a good buddy that I went to chiropractic school with, and he's constantly moving, man. He changed chiropractic schools a couple times. And then once we graduated, he's moved 4 or 5 times. And I talked to him, and it's always the same story, man. Oh, it sucks out here. Man, this location's not good. He's opened up his own practice. He's worked for other people. The guy that he works for sucks. The location sucks. The population sucks. His upbringing sucked. Like he's always trying to blame others, and that's the loser philosophy. The winners take responsibility. I mean, once you turn 18, once you're out on your own, and it doesn't matter what your parents did to you when you were growing up. It doesn't matter what neighborhood you grew up in. Now you're a grown man. You're a grown woman. You're ultimately responsible for every single thing that happens to you. So your reality, your life, I mean, where I'm living and where I'm at, I'm the problem and I'm the solution. So I always look inward, and I do this too. Like I said, I'm talking to myself tonight. I mean, I remember I built this pond in my backyard, a natural swimming pond, and it was 7 feet deep. And I rented a backhoe to dig that hole, 7 feet deep. I think it was like 20 feet wide. And then it rained. It rained like crazy, and all the dirt just crashed into this hole. And at that point, I rebuilt my yard to the point where I couldn't get the backhoe in anymore. So I had to dig that sucker out by hand. And I'm sitting there digging and digging and digging. And for some reason, I'm getting upset. I'm like, man, where's my dad? Why isn't my dad here helping me? Why isn't somebody here helping me? I was just so tired and frustrated. I was like looking for anybody to blame except for myself for digging this stupid hole and allowing it rain to come in. So funny story, I got the hole dug out, and then it rained again and caved in one more time. So I had to dig that hole 3 times, twice by hand, and it was horrible. But I guess my point in telling that story is when we get into high stress situations or find ourselves in situations that we're not happy with, sometimes we reach and try to blame others. And I'm not sure why my dad popped into my mind. He had no part in the plan, or he never told me to dig a 20-foot hole in my backyard. But the point is, that's a tendency that losers tend to have, is to try to look to blame others when they should be realizing that every single thing that happens in their life is their responsibility. So I try to think about that quite a bit. So that brings me to something that I call the human operating system. So you have an operating system on your phone, you have an operating system on your computer, and what are you constantly doing to that operating system consistently? You're having to update it. We update our houses, we update our cars, we update everything around us. But how often do we update our human operating system? How often do we take time to download new information and completely change the way that we're doing things? And if you're on this call, or if you're listening in later, that's exactly what you're doing, whether you know it or not. You're updating your human operating system. So one of the books that I've read recently, and I've been participating in a mastermind for the past, about 6 months. It's kind of an ongoing thing. We'll read a book, we'll get online each week, and we'll dissect the book and talk about the ideals. The first book that we read was a John Maxwell book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. And the first chapter is called The Law of Intentionality. And I'm going to read a little bit to you guys. It says, "Do you have a plan for your personal growth? Kurt Kappenmeyer, the man who asked me this question, waited patiently for my response. It was a question that would change my life. I fumbled for answers. I listed my accomplishments from the previous 3 years. I talked about how hard I worked. I outlined my goals. I explained the things I was doing to reach more people. All of my answers were based on activity, not on improving. Finally, I had to admit it. I had no plan to become better." So this was a huge eye-opener for me in 2019, because, and it was awesome that it came in the first chapter. You know, this was my first time in this mastermind with my business coach, and I didn't know, you never know when you pay for something, when you come to a talk, when you come to a seminar, am I going to get my money's worth? Is this going to be worth my time? Well, I opened up that first chapter and read that first paragraph, and I was like, boom, there it is. I've already gotten the golden nugget that I needed, and the rest of it is just going to be a free roll. So I realized that for 41 years, I had been, working on accomplishments, and I listened to podcasts and read books and attended seminars, but my growth was never intentional. I never really had a plan. Like, have you sat down and said, okay, I'm going to plan out exactly what I'm going to do for this week or this month or this year or this 5 to 10 year span to improve myself? You're probably already doing it haphazardly. You're probably already listening to podcasts. You're here on this or listening to this call. So you're out there trying to improve yourself. But my question to you, is it intentional and is it planned? And if it's not, then you have some work to do. So I hope you'll think about that. One of the biggest things and the biggest mind shifts for me from graduating chiropractic school to owning a business is really the fact that leadership is the only thing. And the higher you go on a ladder, whether in a company or in your practice, or as your practice grows and grows, it becomes less and less about yourself. Of course, you're constantly working to improve yourself, but it's a leadership issue. And my first year, I think I went through 8, 10 CAs. I mean, it was like every month. I mean, people in my inner circle were joking about it. And I know it's pretty common in chiropractic to go through CAs like crazy, but what I started to learn over the past few years, it was really just a leadership issue. So again, I could have said, oh man, these CAs are horrible. Nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to show up on time. But and I hear a lot of people complaining about stuff like that. Oh, it's so hard to find good people. But the truth is, you hired that person. So your leadership skills in hiring and recruiting good people were lacking. I know mine were my first couple of years. Now I've gotten to the point where I have some good staff. I'm better at hiring and firing and recruiting and all those things. But that was a leadership issue, and I would argue that most of the higher level issues in business are all going to come back to leadership. And there's only one way to fix that issue, and that's to focus on self and self-improvement. So if you're intentional about your growth, you become a better leader, you hire better staff, you bring better people around you to create a support system, and then your business flourishes. So we all set goals, and that's fine, but that's not, setting a goal is not an intention for growth. It's what you're going to do on a daily basis to achieve the goal that is the intentional plan to help you grow. The second book in the mastermind, the second session of the mastermind, we read Atomic Habits by James Clear. And the golden nugget didn't come until the second to last chapter. It was all good, but let me read something that blew my mind. So this is from Atomic Habits by James Clear. How to stay focused when you get bored working on your goals. After my baseball career ended, I was looking for a new sport. I joined a weightlifting team, and one day an elite coach visited our gym. He had worked with thousands of athletes during his long career, including a few Olympians. I introduced myself, and we began talking about the process of improvement. What's the difference between the best athletes and everyone else, I asked. What do the really successful people do that most people don't? He mentioned the factors that you might expect: genetics, luck, talent. But then he said something I wasn't expecting. At some point, it comes down to who can handle the boredom of training every day, doing the same lifts over and over and over. His answer surprised me because it's a different way of thinking about work ethic. People talk about getting amped up to work on their goals, whether it's business or sports or art. You hear people say things like it all comes down to passion, or you really have to want it. As a result, many of us get depressed when we lose focus or motivation because we think that successful people have some bottomless reserve of passion. But this coach was saying that really successful people feel the same lack of motivation as everyone else. The difference is that they find a way to show up despite the feelings of boredom. And that's a huge one for me because I find the practice of chiropractic at times mind-numbingly dull. It can be very repetitive, especially when you're working with the common cases, neck pain, back pain, headaches. That's not really my jam. Now, for some reason, I don't know why, but that's the majority of the patients I see. I really market myself as someone who wants to see more complicated cases, and we do see more complicated cases. I have a referral relationship with the joints, and when they can't handle a case, they send them to me. I do a lot of personal injury, and I like personal injury cases because a lot of times they're more complicated. I went to school thinking and culminating the idea that chiropractic produced miracles. And I know that to be true. I still believe that to be true. I see it in practice, and that's what really gets me amped up. But the truth of the matter is, in my reality, not every case that comes into my clinic is going to be a chiropractic miracle. We see a lot of senior citizens. It's like, man, this has been bothering me for 40 years, and it's a 2 to 4 on the pain scale, and yada, yada, yada. Okay, you know what? I love all my patients. I'm not trying to trash talk or be ungrateful. Any patient that walks in the door, I'm happy to see them, man. I want to take care of that person. But it does get boring. I'm an out of the box thinker. I like to see big change and big results as fast as possible. Not really a fan of the details or the minutia or the paperwork or any of the bullshit like that. So it's hard for me sometimes. It's hard. I do get very extremely bored. So reading that book, again, a light bulb popped off, and it was like, man, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that experiences this. And it's not just in my profession. I bet you everybody on the planet, Michael Jordan probably got bored. I mean, playing basketball at that level for however many years, showing up and shooting that ball into the hole. I mean, you talk about repetitive. So I haven't really developed my thoughts around all this, except just I'm at the beginning stages, which is cognizance. I'm aware that I'm bored, and I'm aware that being successful for me, especially in particular, means that I have to figure out a way to fight through the boredom. And I know, Nick, you've been around Pinnacle just like I have. And I think that was the term, fall in love with the process. You have to fall in love with the process. Well, I'm going to take it and make it more personal than my situation. I have to figure out a way to fall in love with the boredom. I don't have the answer yet. I'll get back to you. But I'm aware that it's a problem. So I'm going to start working on a solution to that. The other cool thing about this book, Atomic Habits, is it focused on improving by 1%. And I really dug into that concept, and that's been great. So I'm going to talk about the changes that I made based on this mastermind, based on this book that I read. And the first thing, and I would suggest that you guys do this, because this is another game changer for me. One of the activities from the mastermind was to write out all of your daily habits. And I mean, from like, wake up, what's the first thing you do? Go to the restroom. Okay, get a cup of coffee. Whatever it is, whatever your daily routine is, you write down every single thing that you do. And then you go back, and you might have 100 things that you do regularly on a day-to-day basis. And you go and you put a plus or a minus sign next to all the activities. So and again, I don't like the details. I don't like homework assignments. I don't like paperwork, but I went ahead and did this one because it's part of the mastermind, right? I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get 1% better. So I wrote them all down, and what I saw was, again, I was doing things naturally that were good for me, but it wasn't necessarily intentional. I didn't have a schedule. I didn't have a routine. I just kind of adopted these habits, and they became a part of me loosely, but I never really firmed it up. And then I also noticed a pattern. Another big thing about that activity was I had, in the morning, it was like plus, 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 plus. And then by lunchtime, it was like, plus, minus. And after 6 p.m., minus, 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 minus. Like, I was doing nothing productive after 6 p.m. And it's like, wow, like I'm really killing it until about 1 o'clock. And then definitely 6 o'clock, like I'm worthless. I'm not doing anything productive. So I decided to firm up my morning routine, set some, actually create a schedule. Again, I'm not a detail oriented type of guy. I don't like to be, but again, if I'm trying to improve myself, I'm the problem, right? So if highly successful people schedule out every single minute of their day, well, I'm going to try that to a certain extent. So my morning routine now is wake up between 6 and 6:30, get my cup of tea. I quit caffeine recently during a 21-day cleanse, and I'm trying to hang on to that. That's been going on since March, which was awesome. Again, it all stemmed out of this whole thing, masterminding, trying to get better, trying to improve by 1%. So 6:30 to 7 o'clock, I study. I read at least 2 books concurrently, one for business development and one for personal growth. Right now I'm reading Build a Commercial Real Estate Empire by Mark Ferguson. This is my personal or I'm sorry, my business growth book, and I'm reading the ABCs of Thriving in a Marriage. Even though I'm not married, I'm still trying to work on being better at interpersonal relationships. And it's amazing if you have staff members, how a book like this actually translates to business. So it's funny. And I think about Bobby Boucher and how simple it is. They had him in The Waterboy. They had him being interviewed about how he was so successful, and he said something so simple like, well, the quarterback is going to hike the ball, and then I try to tackle him, and then if he passes the ball off, I try to tackle the other guy with the ball. And everybody's just kind of standing there like, yeah, that's what you do. Well, it's kind of the same way with personal development. It's like, well, how did you become successful? Well, I found the really successful people and I listened to them. And it's kind of like, yeah, that's what you do. You tackle the guy with the ball. The successful person has the ball. You tackle the guy, right? So I'm trying to get around all these successful people and just trying to pick up knowledge and imitate them. As they say, success leaves clues. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's about marriage or commercial real estate or chiropractic. The topic doesn't really matter. It's just about putting yourself in that position to be able to tackle the man, to be able to make the play. And it's amazing how, especially, owning two businesses for those of you who aren't familiar with me, I own a real estate company. I own a chiropractic company. And that's another revelation that I've had through all this personal growth is it's the same principles, like business principles. I could go open a restaurant, a landscaping company. It doesn't matter. I'm going to be successful because I understand the principles of success and the principles that make good business. And then that's what we're talking about. So that's the study session, 30 minutes, a chapter from each of those books. From 7 to 7:30, I'm on the yoga mat or I'm exercising, lifting weights, push-ups, pull-ups, whatever. And then I do my morning meditation, which is just about 5 minutes. First, I visualize myself being perfectly healthy. Then I visualize my chiropractic clinic, seeing 100 patients a day, which is my current goal. The most I've ever done is in the 70s, so I'm trying to push to 100 a day. And then I visualize my real estate company doing really well, people bringing me good deals, my renovations going really well, quick sales, just a lot of visualization during my meditation, which again is only 5 minutes a day, but I find that's all it takes. I get ready from 7:30 to 8. From 8 to 8:30, I have about a 30-minute drive to work. I listen to a Bigger Pockets podcast or some financial podcast. So before 9 o'clock, before most people start the workday, I have read 2 chapters and listened to at least half a podcast. And I've been doing this since chiropractic school back in 2012. So for 8 years, I've been reading or listening to a podcast every morning. So it's like making a deposit every day into a savings account. Like you're just going to pick up on all these successful hints and habits of other people that have been there and done that. So how do you do it? I tackle the guy with the ball. Like it's really that simple. You put yourself in that position. So that's my morning routine. Once I got that ironed out and planned, I was like, you know what? Like 6 months ago, I would eat lunch and take a nap. And that was my thing. Or, my first year in practice, especially, I'd do a lot of networking over lunch. But then there was a lot of talk in the Pinnacle group about staying fresh, and a lot of guys were taking naps and stuff. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try that. And I did that for a couple of years. But then I read this book called The Wealthy Gardener. This is John Soforic, The Wealthy Gardener. So check this out. If you guys don't know me, I'm also a gardener. I love to garden. So this guy, The Wealthy Gardener, is written by a chiropractor who's a real estate investor and an avid gardener. I'm like, what the heck, man? This is me, but in the future. And he's in his 50s now, and he's actually retired with a $250,000 a year income, all from his passive real estate investments. And I want to read you a little something from John Sephoric. And I've actually made contact with him. He's a really, really down-to-earth guy. Man, if you read one book, read The Wealthy Gardener. Man, this is it. I'm telling you, I'm about to read this one again. It's that amazing. This is from the author. I wrote this book about wealth for my son. I felt qualified to speak to him about prosperity due to my own financial freedom. As a father, I was dedicated to offering my best advice without diluting the harshest realities. Financial success was not easy for me. I don't have unusual talent. I don't have unusual intellect or any special skills. I did not attend a renowned college. I possess no distinctive advantage besides discipline to accumulate wealth. For decades, I earned an ordinary living while I also started and ran several small businesses during my working years. These businesses were average, rural, common, and regular operations with steady cash flow. But by age 50, I possessed one thing that everyone desires at that age: total financial freedom. I had amassed wealth slowly but steadily in the hardworking middle class of America. Now, that doesn't really sum up what this guy did. If you read the book, you'll realize that he actually made some astronomical sacrifices. And he talks about breaking goals down into 5-year sections and 5-year plans. So now I'm developing my 5-year plan to be financially independent as well. Sounds crazy. I'm 42. By the time I'm 47, I plan to be financially independent, meaning I can walk away from everything and still be producing that high income, which I enjoy. The way that he did it is he stopped all entertainment for 5 years. So, and these concepts are going to meld together. So like I said, I've got my morning routine down pat. When I read his book, and he talked about how literally from sun up to sundown for 5 years, no TV, no movies, no reading for fun, no doing anything that was not productive. I mean, this dude was a beast. Like he would, after work, he would work all day through the lunch hour, come home, and then he would exercise for an hour, and then he would sit in his sauna and meditate and visualize for an hour, like I'm doing 5 minutes in the morning. Like I'm not doing anything compared to this guy, right? For 5 years, man, this cat had zero entertainment, like no fun for 5 years. From wake until sleep, it was work, focus, study, visualize, affirmations, whatever it took to keep him occupied and to help him grow. So he made this astronomical commitment to improve himself, and then here he is making $250,000 a year off of his passive investments, retired at the age of 50. So I ditched the lunchtime nap. I started working through the lunch. Now I handle the majority of my real estate business over the lunch hour. Today I went and did touch-up. Today over lunch, I went and bought supplies for one of my Airbnbs, stocked the closet, did some touch-up painting because one of the reviews said that there was the bathroom, the hallway banister was scratched and needed painting. I'm like, okay, I can knock that out today over lunch. So boom, went and took care of that. So I'm not napping over lunch anymore. I feel fine. I was tired in the afternoon shift even after a nap. So what the hell? Now the evening routine is still kind of negative. Like I like to come home, have a drink, watch Netflix, chill with my kids. I'm not a machine yet, but I've been kind of dipping my toe in the pool where a couple nights out of the week, I'll come home and read, or I'll watch instead of watching, some stupid show on Netflix or a movie, I'll watch a documentary, or I'll watch a YouTube video on flipping houses or something productive. So morning routine, check. Lunch routine, check. Evening routine, I'm not sure that I can be that guy that gives up every part of entertainment for 5 years. But that comes to one of the culminating points that I wanted to get across tonight, is that you have to be honest about what you want. Like I said back in school, I said, I'm going to have $1 million practice. I'm going to see 400 patients a week, and I'm going to collect $1 million. And let's see, I did that in my third, no, I mean, I didn't do that. I got halfway there my third year out. I was seeing 200 a week, collected over 500K. That's pretty awesome for 3 years out. But what I did is I hit a wall. Like I've hit a wall at 200. That is my comfort level. And I've been there. I hit 200 my second year, and I'll be in practice 4 years in October. So for 2 years, I've been riding this 200 wall because I haven't been willing to do the work personally to get myself beyond that. And I know that for a fact. I'm the problem. Like I like to come home and have a little drink and relax instead of studying or exercising or doing something to elevate my existence. That's why I can't get to 400. That's why I can't get to 300, because I haven't put in the time and the effort that is required to improve myself, my leadership skills, my physical ability, my mental function, whatever it is that's keeping me held back from going to 300 or 400 is because I'm comfortable with where I'm at. I am so comfortable at 200. I can go in with my eyes closed, sick, hungover, whatever you want to call it, and I can perform at a fairly high level. And I'm financially stable. Like I can survive, and not only survive, but thrive at 200 visits a week for the rest of my life. And I know that, and that's where it gets really hard to push to the next level. But all that being said, that's why I'm getting intentional. That's why I'm staying in these masterminds and planning for my growth, so that I don't just continue to say, oh, well, I'm attending these seminars, and I'm listening to podcasts, and I'm reading a book here and there. That's not going to be enough to break through. But I have to decide. Am I willing to be the guy that comes home and does not drink alcohol and continues to read and exercises every day and I don't even know what it's going to take, but it's going to take a combination of something for me to give up elimination of some bad habit and the replacing that bad habit with a habit that helps to elevate my existence. I don't know what that is yet. Again, I'm on the journey just like you guys are. I don't have the answer yet, but I'll let you know when I do. So last thing I want to talk about is systems and procedures in the clinic, outside the clinic. It's really, again, back to the business principles, the principles of success that work are you develop a system and procedure. My morning routine has a system and procedure. My lunch routine has a system and procedure. My evening routine sucks. That's why I'm at 200, I guess. I don't know. But if you don't have a system in your clinic that you're using, you're setting yourself up for failure. I use the Pinnacle system. I'm also in the Shubal Vision Elite mentoring group. I've been a member of Focus Foundations. When I was in school, I checked out Amped. And what I can tell you is all of these systems work. It really doesn't matter which one you choose. The one you choose should be the one that vibes with you the most. I'm more of an introvert, believe it or not. So the Pinnacle system was perfect for me. I'm like, oh, wait, don't talk? Oh, man, I'm all over that. Like, I don't want to talk to people all day long. I just want to adjust them. So you have to find the systems and procedures that work for you, and then you have to go for it. Speaking of shutting the front door, that's another big thing and a daily battle for me. Even though I'm naturally an introvert, I still have to battle on a daily basis with not talking in the clinic. That's one of the biggest, most complex daily battles that I have, because we all have that need for our patients to like us and love us, and we want them to know that we care about them and we're spending time with them. So I wanted you guys to know that I battle with stuff daily, and that's one of my biggest battles is just keeping quiet, because it's an insecurity thing. Like if you can not talk from start to finish on a daily visit, like you have become the master. And if you can do that again and again and again, you have really become the master, and that confidence is just oozing out of you, because you know what? You don't even have to say a word. It's just, we're going to get you better. So that's tough, but and it'll never be something that you can accomplish without a system in place. I have a system in place. I run the Pinnacle system. very similar to the Focus Foundation system. As you guys know, Tim Young was a Pinnacle doc for a long time. So I think they're based and rooted in some of the same philosophies. Again, it doesn't matter which system you pick, but you have to have that system in place inside the clinic. And then once you hit, so I found my stopping point at 200. The system in the clinic is not, in my opinion, what's holding me back. It's my systems outside of the clinic, my personal beliefs, and all the things that I'm doing outside of the clinic that are holding me back at this point. So the past 6 months or so have been a time of reflection and a time for personal growth. And it's kind of tough to tell with COVID going on and everything, but we did double our practice in about 6 weeks for after the COVID. And during that time, I went through a 21-day standard process cleanse, stopped drinking alcohol for about 3 months, started doing yoga daily. That's when my morning routine really started to come together. I was in that mastermind. So I was doing all of these things to improve myself, and lo and behold, the practice doubled in 6 weeks. So I think I'm onto something, that the idea that once you hit a stumbling block in practice and you've been there for a while, yes, it's good to continually analyze and work on the systems inside your practice. But my theory is that you probably got some issues with the systems outside the clinic, which is basically your personal life, that need to be examined and cleaned up. And that's all I have to say about that.
That was awesome, man. I don't know about anybody else, but it hits home with me. This whole COVID thing. I think I got depressed. I was going through some tough times with a lot of it. So that's awesome. Need to get back into the routines, especially the morning one. One of the big things I started, and I get called crazy all the time, but I take cold showers.
Wow.
If I take 2 showers in a day, the first one's cold, the second one's hot. But my first shower of the day is cold. I only
Nice.
do it because I hate it. I don't want to do it, but it helps me to develop grit so that anything that I face, I can tackle that day. So
Yeah,
not joking. It's not
that's
happening. You're not going to get me to do that.
I think I tagged you in that, didn't I?
Yeah, and it's not going to happen.
3 days. 3 days. We need 3 days of cold showers.
Cold water for you is not the same as cold water for me.
It could be. You don't have to go super cold. I started like a lukewarm, and then every time I washed a new body part, I went cold. That's all you got to do.
You don't live in an RV. I either have hot or I've got cold. That's all I get.
You have a different circumstance. Just go jump in the river. Well, awesome. Dan, I really appreciate it.
We're still talking about mountain water.
I don't want to take too much more of your time. I'll go ahead and post your book in there for the link and everything if anybody wants to check that out. And thank you so much. I appreciate it, man. That was fantastic.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor. Really appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah.
So when I figure all this stuff out, I'll let you know. We can do this again. So
we'll do a follow-up. For sure. Well, everybody have a good night. Taylor, I hope your game's good. Called out. All right. Have a good one, guys.